Jack Doohan has just 6 races to prove that he belongs in Formula 1. We haven't even turned the wheel yet in 2025, and already the clock is ticking on Doohan's Alpine career. Their new boy now finds himself under immense pressure even before the first race of the season, and that's because of their new signing, whose shadow is looming large. Yep, that's right, enter Franco Colapinto, Alpine's new test and reserve driver, who is already being tipped to be a serious contender to take Doohan's seat, having arrived at the Enstone-based outfit from Williams. The stakes are extremely high because Doohan has the mammoth task of trying to impress Alpine enough to warrant his place in the team for the rest of the season. But he faces a real fight on his hands to convince them that he is the man that they should get behind and back in the long term. It really does feel like it's come down to a straight duel between Doohan and Colapinto to secure a long-term deal with Alpine for the future. So really it's a question of, will Doohan cement his place, or is Colapinto going to steal the spotlight? Looking at the situation more closely, I think that this really began when Flavio Briatore returned to Alpine as an executive advisor, where of course he was brought in to try and help turn the team's fortunes around because it had a very, very difficult start to 2024. Briatore pretty much got straight to work on his evaluation of Alpine's problems, and soon enough he'd already hired a new team principal in Oliver Oakes, and then he'd made the groundbreaking decision to shut Alpine's engine program entirely in favour of becoming a customer Mercedes team in 2026. Flavio then had to decide who was going to take Esteban Ocon's seat for 2025, and he went through a list of options that included Valtteri Bottas, Mick Schumacher and Carlos Sainz, before he eventually settled on Doohan. Now Doohan has been an Alpine junior since 2022 when he left the Red Bull program in favour of joining Alpines, and for the past 2 years he's been one of its reserve drivers and has done the odd FP1 outing here and there, and on top of that we see him from time to time in the back of the Alpine garage at a Grand Prix. Now you may be aware that it is very rare these days for Alpine to promote one of its junior drivers to a race seat, and in fact since 2007 only 4 drivers have gone from a test role to a race seat the following year, and those of course are Heikki Kovalainen in 2007, followed by Nelson Piquet Jr. in 2008. Then in 2009 and 2012, Romain Grosjean was promoted to a race seat. And then finally, the most recent driver was Jolyon Palmer in 2016. So Alpine showing trust in its junior programme really is long overdue. But clearly it felt that Doohan was worthy of a shot, having done some impressive performances in the lower categories on his way to Formula 1, and also put in some impressive work in his reserve and test driver role. But we're only 5 months on from when Alpine announced Doohan would be Gasly's teammate for 2025. And already his seat is seriously under threat, which puts Doohan in an extremely awkward position. Because even before Alpine has rolled out his 2025 car, let alone pre-season testing or the first race in Melbourne, Doohan knows that he has to deliver results from the outset, otherwise he's going to be given the boot, and that's a lot of pressure for a rookie. I mean, Doohan did have the luxury of having a kind of test run, if you like, for his debut season at the final race of 2024 in Abu Dhabi, when he did put in kind of, I would say, a respectable performance. He finished 15th, and importantly, during the race, he kept his nose clean. So the fact that there is currently a lot of speculation that Alpine actually wants to make a U-turn on Doohan without him actually having a proper crack at Formula 1, I think is extremely harsh. And okay, Formula 1, it's a harsh business. You know, it's actually harder to stay there than get to Formula 1 in the first place. But to put him in this position really is a bit of a joke. You know, give the guy a chance. But maybe we shouldn't be too surprised that Briatore has already got a ready-made replacement lined up if Jack can't meet Alpine's expectations, because as you know, Flavio, not only is it clear that he's obviously a big admirer of Colapinto, we know from the past that he is a shrewd operator. If he spots talent, he goes chasing after it. That's exactly what he did in the past with 2 of the greatest drivers in Formula 1 history, and to be fair to him, he got it right both times. The first of those was, of course, Michael Schumacher, who, of course, blew everyone away on his debut for Jordan at Spa in 1991, and Flavio immediately took the chance to snap him up for the following race at Monza. And then the second case was, of course, Fernando Alonso, who was obviously being managed by Flavio in the early 2000s, but when he was Renault test driver in 2002, he snapped up the chance to promote him to a race seat the following year in 2003, despite the fact that Jenson Button was outperforming Jarno Trulli throughout 2002, but it was Button that would make way for Alonso and not Trulli. Whatever Flavio saw in Alonso and Schumacher back then, he clearly sees in Colapinto now. I mean, after all, Franco did get heads turning during his 9 races with Williams last year. Okay, not always for the right reasons, he did have a few crashes near the end. but still the high points are what got him this deal with Alpine in the first place. While Williams, I'm sure, would have liked to have kept him, I think they were clearly aware that this was the best chance for Franco to get a Formula 1 seat in either 2025 or 2026, and that's something that they simply couldn't offer him because, of course, their current drivers, Albon and Sainz, are on long-term deals, so hence why they were happy to negotiate his exit with Alpine. Now that Franco is part of the Alpine family, details have now emerged of both his and Doohan's contracts, and it's certainly raised a few eyebrows. First of all, Argentinian publication Olé has revealed that Doohan has a guaranteed contract up to 6 races up to the Miami Grand Prix, after which Alpine can let him go for poor performance. 6 races doesn't seem long, but actually short-term deals in Formula 1 aren't that unusual. In fact, some drivers have previously only been contracted to do just the one race. Mark Webber famously only initially signed a 3-race deal with Minardi when he made his debut in 2002, but when he scored at the first race in Melbourne, that famous 5th place that gave them 2 crucial points, his contract was actually extended to run for the entire season. The other detail is that Franco has signed for up to 5 years with Alpine, which kind of blew me away at the length of that contract. So clearly Flavio has a great amount of belief that Franco is a future star in the making. In this situation, I don't think you can blame Alpine for chasing Colapinto's signature because, first of all, he is a very good driver and he absolutely deserves to be in Formula 1. But I think where the problem lies for some is the timing of the deal, because it's a clear indication that Alpine wants Franco to be part of its future sooner rather than later, and that it only really views Jack as a short-term stopgap solution. You could call this another case of Alpine dealing with its drivers badly, because that's kind of what they've become known for in the last few years. I mean, that's how they lost Fernando Alonso to Aston Martin, that's how they lost Piastri to McLaren, and it's the reason why they parted ways before the end of the season with Ocon last year. Overall, I absolutely see the sense in Alpine selling Colapinto, but I just think that Doohan needs to be given a fair chance to show what he can do, rather than them making a hasty decision that could have major consequences for his future in Formula 1. Whether or not we're going to be sitting here after 6 races either agreeing or disagreeing with what Alpine decides it's going to do remains to be seen, but it really would be quite something, I think, if Jack gave them something to really think about. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out for the first few months of the season. So that's it for today's video. Feel free to leave your comments below. Don't forget to like the video, and if you are new around here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.